Hello and welcome to the Aerospace Village. My name is Matthew Gaffney, and this is episode 6 in the drone security series, hacking with drones. Um, so, like I said, I'm Matt Gaffney. I'm a volunteer and board member here at the Aerospace Village. I see our primary role as our fundamental message, which is to build those and foster those relationships between researchers and the aerospace community, to inspire the next generation to come in, because we're not going to be around forever, and we need new ideas in the business, and then to promote that responsible behavior on both sides. So a bit about me. I was in the British Army after having been a developer for a while. And in the Army, because if you have IT background, anything with IT in the title comes your way. And one of those was this IT security officers course. And that got me into InfoSec. I left the Army, got into InfoSec. And I must admit, GRC was not kind of my bag. So I started getting more technical. And that's how eventually I found my way into aviation cybersecurity. And I've been working or previously working at the operator level, where my focus was on the a real broad range, actually. Some compliance work. In fact, that was the main reason for doing, but also doing information assurance on the systems around the aircraft information systems domain and the passenger domains on the aircraft, so the IFE, the electronic flight bags, the ground systems, etc., etc. And obviously with COVID disrupting the airlines, that's kind of pushed me out of business for a little while. I'm hoping to get back in soon, but I've been working in finance because they still got loads of money, and I've been working on a greenfield site doing some interesting work. But in my spare time, I've been doing the security series, the drone security research, or UAS. And then, like I said, this is episode 6. So if you want to go back into the Aerospace Village channel on YouTube, you can go through all the episodes. So I started off with an introduction on drones. Not everybody knows a lot about drones. So I didn't going into this. This was completely black box, if you want to describe it that way. I'd never flown a drone before, built a drone, so I was completely going from scratch. In episode 2, I go through building the actual airframe. Episode 3 is the electronics build. And then episode 4, the important part, safety and regulations, which obviously, we fully abide by. Episode 5 was for the RSA conference, and I'm going to put that up on our YouTube, or a version of that on our YouTube channel shortly. And now we talk about the Maverick protocol, and we look at some weaknesses. So I just wanted to look at the Maverick protocol, but I didn't actually realize how it was structured and how it was protected. And it turns out that there are some weaknesses in there to investigate. Didn't have enough time to fully go into a full compromise of the protocol, but I've certainly identified some ideas that I'll be working on in my spare time once my contract comes to an end, and I'll have loads of time waiting for my visa to come through for the States. And so this episode 6, we're going to look, instead of hacking drones, we're going to look to hack with our drone. And this is an exciting idea. So that's the concept there. That's the, stickman is the attacker on the right, or me. I wish I was that thin. Turns out having knee surgery just before lockdown is not good for the waistline. But you're there with your drone. Imagine the camera is the payload, and the idea is you start flying it around, and you get to the top end of a building. And the reason I'm kind of targeting that is I have heard of situations where businesses consider themselves impervious to Wi-Fi attacks if the building is high off the ground, because they think, well, no, we trust everyone in the building. It's ours. Nobody else is in here. So you can't hack us from the ground floor. So we're safe. And I want to dispel that myth. So this is the idea in a nutshell. You know, and if I can do it in Call of Duty, if I can jump out of of a helicopter with a drone on my back without breaking it, mind you, and there you can see my absolutely pathetic COD skills there. I actually missed the building I was going for, so I went for another one. You know, so you get there, you find your target. In this case, it's the Nakatomi Tower. What else? What else would I target but the Nakatomi Tower? And you know, launch our drone. Yeah, okay, we've seen it. And we get on our way, you know. And you know, when it comes to quadcopters, this is the COD replication is not a million miles away from reality. It's probably a little bit faster than it really is. And actually, yeah, I came across some fella on the roof there. So yeah, that's the idea. If I can do this in Call of Duty, I mean, surely I can do this in real life. No. So certainly, you know, certainly troll people anyway. Like, I was having a bit of fun with this guy. I think so now he knows I'm there. He starts looking around, can't see me. Anyway, digress. So feasibility. Now remember, my drone is a fixed wing, but I'm thinking about upgrading. You know, this drone on the top right there, it's a Chinese special, but it looks really good. It's actually it's composite body, so it's actually pretty strong. It's very light and it's modular, so it literally just clips together. Comes in a hard case, and you literally just put it together in a couple of minutes, and off you go. And there you can see that actually this one is a hybrid between having the quadcopter rotors for takeoff and landing, but then it has a hydrocarbon engine on the back as well for that, you know, for that endurance. And this one with a 10 kilo payload, it's saying is 4 hours of endurance. And I've not tested that for real, but that's with 12 liters of fuel. You can put on more fuel. You know, I'm really thinking about getting one of these, but it might be once I get to the States, rather than you know, buying it and then shipping it over with all the rest of my stuff. But there you can see a max payload of 15 kilograms. The drone I've got at the moment, I can do a max payload of I think about 4 kilograms. So when you think about it, that's enough space, that's enough payload capacity for the batteries to power the drone. And not just for 5 minutes. That would give me, you know, one of my, you know, my 10 amp batteries would give me, I think 1.5 hours of flying time. If I could put 2 in there and still have spare capacity for, you know, a single board computer, so a Raspberry Pi, for example, or even something a little bit more powerful. If you couple it with, you know, LTE dongle, you know, and your battery, you know, all of a sudden you've got this ability to be able to take a very powerful computer that's lightweight, a long distance, and be able to control it remotely. So it turns out I'm late to the party on this one. You know, as far back as the noughties, this idea was being thrown around, and people were writing actual, you know, ideas here. They're actually, you know, Snoopy here is actually, you know, a piece of software you can actually install. I think it's a full OS actually, this one, it's open source. It collects SSID information, and it can act as a rogue access point. You know, so you can start doing, you know, you can replicate an actual Wi-Fi access point in the area, de-auth all of them, and then provide a stronger signal. So all of those clients then connect to you instead, and then route that traffic back through the original Wi-Fi access point. Why not? So they're none the wiser, but all of a sudden you're a man in the middle, and you know, if there's any weaknesses in the security of the data going over that connection, then you know you can easily sniff it and start doing some nasty stuff. And it looks like governments are getting in on it as well. So it turns out that you know, there's some government departments who might be interested, because there are hacking team which are I can't remember which business they're a part of, but it's one of the defense contractors, and in situ, sorry, in situ is the government department. Hacking team is an Italian company, And somebody leaked an email spring of last year, which was an approach, a kind of an RFI really, for a platform to develop a way of infecting computers by drone. So it has to be ruggedized and transportable. So I'm thinking here it's for use in operations. So possibly military, possibly maybe some of the more clandestine operations. So it's getting some attention now. And then, of course, you've got T-Bone, which I started throwing the idea around, and then all of a sudden, Ralph, Philip, and Benedict put their video out there of hacking the Tesla with and essentially the hack was their device and the code that they had built to remotely access the infotainment system on a Tesla. Within 100 meters to open doors, play music, change seat settings, and probably even more. But they stuck it on the drone just to show that it could be done, and I really liked the idea actually. Even though they beat me to it in terms of my series, I really liked that, and that was some really good work. So we've got this idea. What's the threat matrix here? Well, there's all sorts of potential targets. So obviously there's the corporate entities. You could be doing surveillance. You could be doing, trying to breach into networks. Instead of a Raspberry Pi, or as well as the Raspberry Pi, why don't you stick a Wi-Fi pineapple in there? You can route the management interface through the network. Wouldn't be a problem. You bounce off the Raspberry Pi into that, and all of a sudden you've got all excuse me, you've got all the power of the Wi-Fi pineapple at your hands. I mean, that would be amazing. In fact, I've got one here, which I might think about doing. And then of course, if it's not corporate, then it's military targets. I'm from the British Army. We love our fences in the British Army. We think they're going to protect us from everything. Well, are you really going to notice a drone flying over your fence at 2 o'clock in the morning? Okay, that's a bad idea. Most soldiers are getting back in from a night out at 2 in the morning. But let's say, once they're fast asleep and snoring in their drunken haze at about 5 or 6 in the morning, then you can easily get that drone over the fence line and into an area that's potentially quite sensitive without anyone noticing. You can get these propellers as well, which are pitched for low sound. So you really wouldn't, hear it unless you were very close by. And one thing about the military bases, certainly in the UK, and I think this might be the same in the US as well, is they provide a Wi-Fi service, usually through a third party, a civilian company, to provide Wi-Fi to soldiers on base. And these services, the soldiers pay for them. And if my experience in the British Army is anything to go by, they're often really bad. They're not very good. They don't work very well. And they can be expensive as well, especially when you're on a soldier's salary. Coughing up 30, 40 quid a month for a Wi-Fi, for internet access when you've got a phone, which probably costs less, isn't very attractive, especially if it doesn't work all the time. But if you provide free Wi-Fi, if you put free in the SSID, fly your drone in, all of a sudden, trust me, a soldier sees something free, they're going to go for it. So then you could be sniffing all of that data that the soldiers are using for free through your drone, and you could be getting some juicy details out of that. And then, of course, there's the aircraft side. So, I mean, a lot has been talked about in the aviation village about spoofing ADS-B and GPS jamming, and there's been some theoretical attacks as well. And with the GPS, I think they've done some in a Faraday cage. So these are possible attacks, but there's a high possibility you will get detected by the authorities. If there's a high incidence of aircraft being affected by spoofed ADS-B, you know, they can kind of localize where the signal is, and then be able to track you down. So not a good idea. But if you wanted to affect a single aircraft, bear in mind that if you go back to that drone I was looking at from China, you know, it has a pretty high top speed. You know, an aircraft on approach would easily be within, you know, be within the same kind of speed bracket that I could spoof ADS-B coming alongside that aircraft. It certainly would go as fast as a Cessna or something else. But of course, all general aviation has to have ADS-B in and out nowadays here in the UK, and I think in the States as well. You know, so if you want to do a more localized attack to avoid that detection, that could be another way of doing it. You know, the equipment you need on would fit on a drone. It doesn't weigh very much. Hack RF, for example, doesn't weigh but a few hundred grams. So it's totally possible to do that. And GPS jamming as well. You've seen them all. You can get them on Amazon and eBay, even though you're not supposed to. You know, very lightweight, and they just flood the GPS frequency, so you don't get any through. Again, very, very deployable via drone. And then, of course, you've got your general population. You could target places where LTE networks generally get overloaded, you know, so tourist spots, festivals and parks and things like that. You get lots of people trying to get onto 3G, 4G, 5G, and there's just too many, and the system falls over, and you can't get any internet, and all of a sudden there's a free Wi-Fi access point. You know, we go back to the same thing with the soldiers there. You know, people are going to connect to it, people are going to use it. You know, you could use it for surveillance, or you could use it for, you know, for man-in-the-middle attacks to you know, basically attack people with money, basically, you know. Why not? And the possibilities, you know, from there start getting, you know, start expanding. So why fly them? You know, if you have a ground-based platform, you wouldn't need so much batteries, and you could even deploy the ground-based one with solar panels that fold out. If you found a nice quiet spot to hide, yet you still had enough sun, you know, you could basically or potentially sit there for a long time, you know, charging the batteries with the solar panels, and you know, doing whatever you want to do with this platform, or even a semi-submersible. You know, so I was talking about soldiers earlier. What about foreign military vessels in ports? You know, again, on board they provide Wi-Fi for the sailors to use on board, but my guess is it's not as good as you would typically expect to get, and you could, you know, start getting some intelligence and some product off of that data that you're intercepting. Or, you know, yacht clubs, you know, I mean, a semi-submersible, all you need is a small part of the top visible with, you know, a couple of antennas on it. And you know, if you sneak it in at night into a place that is not very noticeable by day, you know, it's very unlikely you're going to get seen. Yeah, and go to yacht clubs. People have lots of money in yacht clubs. Well, okay, they often say that a boat is just a hole in the ocean into which you pour money. So theoretically speaking, people who own boats had money, but they might not have any more. But you can still try. You know, you can still try and get, you know, go for the high value targets in terms of, you know, intercepting banking communications and all that kind of stuff. Or again, crowded beaches, like I said, you know, tourist hotspots. Not sure if that would be quite feasible from the beach for a beach with a semi-submersible, but you know, could be worth trying. So, and of course, you look at the pros and cons. Well, you know, obviously you're bypassing any physical security controls that are in place. You got a fence, I'm going to fly over it. You know, you think you're safe on the water, I'll, you know, sit just under the waterline and you can't see me, you can't detect me. It's also pretty cheap, remember, in terms of cost versus reward. Remember, my drone build is probably about £1,000 all in. You you know, and if your goal is money, it's probably very easy to make that money back up quite quickly. And it's low risk. You can easily deny. You know, it's difficult to attribute back to somebody. All you have is a drone. How do you prove it was this person's or that person's, unless you actually catch that person in the act, which again, you would have to have a fortuitous stroke of luck or be going off some intelligence-led investigation. So, you know, it's quite a low risk for the attacker. And on the you know, negative side, well, yeah, you do have to, you know, fly or control a drone. Stupid, yeah. So, you know, I mean, we talk about legalities later on, but technically, I think you probably need two people, one person to make sure the drone is staying in the right place, and then the other person doing the actual work. I say cost, you know, I say it was, you know, it's relatively cheap cost. It still is a cost. You have an outlay there, which you do have to bear. And there is a risk that you will lose the, you know, the drone as well, you know, so these are all things to bear in mind. You know, you could crash. Well, if you crash and then it's detected, then, you know, are you going to go and recover it? Probably not, because then your game is up. So, with all that in mind, let's look at what we're going to do. So, you know, I've been doing my research and looking at this. You know, the Raspberry Pi, fantastic platform. I have several. I've been a fan since the beginning, and now it's, you know, it's a very powerful platform with 8 gigabytes of RAM. You know, it is, you know, I would say almost the complete package in terms of an offensive platform. If we add to that an LTE dongle with a Wi-Fi access point, we don't need to mess around with, you know, because using LTE hats that use the GPIO on the Raspberry Pis is very tricky. A lot of them say they work, they don't. They might work with one network, not another, and it's just a whole mess. Instead, just do it through the Wi-Fi on board. You know, why not? A lot easier. All the Raspberry Pi has to do is just power that dongle, and it is pretty low power. So, you know, it's well within the capabilities of the Pi. And then, of course, we need a compatible USB dongle as well. So the Alpha version 1 is good for that with the right chipset, so it can go into broadcast mode. And then, of course, we've got our battery as well, which is right here, and it's you know, it's pretty lightweight, but it's still, you know, close to 17,000 milliamp hours. So it's actually got quite a bit of juice in this small enough box, and it will output 5 volts at up to 2.4 amps. And I did some tests on my bench with this setup all plugged in and powered up, and actually, you know, cracking hashes, and it went up to, I think it barely touched 1 amp at highest draw. So we're well within those limits, and we're well within the limits of the Raspberry Pi, you know, circuit boards as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set up a Wi-Fi access point at 2.4 gigahertz because, you know, the alpha's not 5G, and I'm going to configure it with WEP because it's nice and easy. I could have done WAP, but, you know, this is a proof of concept. It's not a challenge, a hacking challenge as such. This is a proof of concept that something is possible to do. And then, you know, connected to those, I've got a laptop, a couple of laptops connected, and the goal is to compromise that network. So I want to basically capture the handshakes, do some deauth packet, you know, send some deauth packets, capture the handshake, and then crack the hash, and then you know, get the pass code of the SSID. So limitations for our proof of concept are obviously, you know, the first one is the drone regulations. So they say you must maintain direct control of the drone and keep it in line of sight. So that's up to 500 meters away. And you're not allowed to, for example, use, you know, the onboard cameras with the, you know, with the goggles. If you do that, you need a second person to spot. And of course, whilst they don't say, in fact, there's nothing in the regulations that say you are not allowed to do this kind of thing from a drone, or at least not yet. By saying that you basically have to have direct control, and you can't use the goggles, that also means that other things that you are doing. So I can't take my eyes off the drone and then start hacking whilst flying, because that would be against the spirit of the regulations, if not a direct violation of the regulations. And in order to do this all, fully legally, I think I would need 2, possibly even 3 people in total. And I'd need a large location where I can set up, the Wi-Fi access point and everything in the middle of the field. That needs power, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this at home. It's not a flying drone test, this one, but the drone is going to be on and the motors are going to be spinning. And it's just going to be much easier for me to do this proof of concept, because we have to stay legal. And of course, this is the UK. The weather plays a role. Always gets in the way. We had a heat wave a few weeks ago. It was too hot to do anything apart from sit down and be, have several fans blowing air onto you. And then it was raining, and then it was windy, and this is all not great for flying drones. So, like I said, we'll do this in the garden, and I said the drone will be active. We'll have full flight controller capability. The GPS will be on, motors will be spinning, telemetry, video, everything else. All of the the RF interference that could be there is going to be there. The payload will be inside the drone, and our remote access via the LTE dongle. And to do that, it's not like setting up a port forwarding. You can't really do that on an LTE dongle. But what we can do is a reverse tunnel. So configure the Pi to set up a tunnel to my computer, my desktop PC, which then allows 2-way communication along that tunnel. So we'll go through the setup. We'll get the drone out, set it all up in the garden, and go from there.
Okay, so here we go. So apologies for this bit. I'm filming on my phone because I'm up against it time-wise. There's been a lot going on at work. So, but as you can see, I've made this this launcher following my crash, where I really didn't throw very well, and I kind of went away and thought about the problem. Obviously, it needs a bit of sanding down and a little bit of paint to stop that rust, but works pretty well. She's got some catapult elastic here, which I can alter the tension of. That is actually a little bit loose, so everything's attached, everything's ready to go. I mean, obviously I haven't got any kind of any bracings here to hold things down, because I'm not actually flying today. Because, like I said, can't fly and hack. You have to have 2 people. I'm on my own. Oh, my neighbour.
Oh, sorry. You're amazing. Are you well flying now?
Yes, my neighbour came to say hello. He's a nice guy. Get on really well with him. So there we go. It's all set up. We get the beeps from the GPS in a second. There we go. So in terms of EMF, there is going to be everything going. I'll have the motors going, but I'll do that off camera, just because of safety. I've got the telemetry antenna there. I've got the so that's the radio one. That's the telemetry. I've got the radio. I've got the video going. So all the EMF that can come off of this thing is going to be here for the test. And here it is. So I've kind of, if I had more time, I would have probably done a 3D printed case bespoke for this, but, needs must. So I've basically just got some electrical tape and just made it into a bundle. But it all works. It's got a switch there for power, and basically it's just going to go in here. Slide it in. underneath the battery cable. Get the battery out of the way. There we go. And actually, there's bags of room. You know, I could, in theory, double this back inside with the antenna like that, but I'm just going to keep it here for now. You know, I'm not sure if that would cause any issues if I put it next to the telemetry. They are, you know, pretty different frequencies. The only one that's similar in frequency is the radio. Because I'm not using 5 gigahertz, otherwise it would have, you know, been close to the video one. But you know, we'll see how it goes. I even put, this is like confident I am going to put it right up against the GPS unit here. It shouldn't really give up on the EMF, but there we go. Right, let's go connect up and see how it goes.
Okay, so now we're all set up. The drone is on. You know, the payload is in there, and we're ready to go. Let's go do some hacking.
Okay, so I've gone ahead and connected 2 SSH sessions to the Raspberry Pi. The first tunnel is all set up and working, and actually the latency is pretty good. Although we do have good 4G connection here, and you know, so that's probably helping the latency somewhat. Depending on where you're flying, you might, you know, only be on 2G, and you know, probably will slow things down quite a bit. But here we're getting quite good results. So aircraft is already installed. It's already been tested and what have you. So we'll just go straight into it. And what we do is the first thing you have to do when running aircraft these days is to kill any processes that might get in the way. And they have a nice feature for that. So you just you run airmon with a check kill command, and it will do it all for you, actually, which is nice and easy. There we go, that's all killed. And you know, I've got the Alpha card is running on wireless WLAN 1 with built-in Wi-Fi running on WLAN 0. So we should start this off. Go, that's it now in monitor mode, and it's down as WLAN 1 mon. So you can start grabbing information here. Oops. There we go. Right, so there we go. Just grabbing there's the SSID I need. Got enough information there. Let me kill that here. So here we go. It's right at the top there. There you can see that's the MAC address. That's the channel. That's the SSID. And obviously it's on WPA because it doesn't work on WPA2. Anyway, so now what I need to do, and this is where the second window comes in. I'm going to kick off the listening point. So what we've got is using AeroDump, and we've got channel 11, the MAC address of the SSID, running it on WLAN 1 mon, and then there's an error in it, and that's just a flag, a trigger which ignores -1. We don't worry about that. So yeah, we'll WPA crack, and let's give it a go. So here we go. It's going to start going. It's starting to get beacons, which is good. That means it's getting all it's all set up correctly. And my phone is, just double check, you can't see this, but it's connected to the HackMe SSID. Okay, so now let's run a few deauth packets. Here we go. So AirPlay has a nice little deauth packet feature. So we've got 100 deauth packets, and see what happens. Oh, interesting. So you can't really see this, but it's actually disconnected my phone, which keeps trying to reconnect, but I think it's failing. And it's failing before it's gone through the whole handshake. So it's actually going a bit too fast. So we're not getting enough time to get the proper full handshake in. So what I'm doing is stop that deal. That's interfering. What I'll do is I'll just reconnect manually. Okay. There we go. Excellent. Got a handshake. Brilliant. So, as you can see, there's been a few attempts here. So W9 is the latest one. So what we'll do is there we go. So then we run aircrack against a word list, and what I've done is I've taken the rocku.txt and I've inserted the password to the SSID in that word list file, because this is not a real world hack. This is just a proof of concept, so it had to have the actual password in there. But it's in there in the middle of rocku.txt, and then against the output file, which is from the latest attempt. So there we go, key found. Yeah, and that is the SSID PSK, which is Aerospace Rocks. So there we go, proof of concept. So we can connect through a reverse tunnel to a Raspberry Pi on a LTE dongle, flying anywhere we want, really. You can put that, it doesn't have to fly. You can put it, in a semi-submersible, as long as the antennae are above water. You can fly it around, and yeah, it's quite interesting. So imagine on that Raspberry Pi, we didn't just have aircraft; we had the whole Kali suite of tools. Well, all of a sudden, you've got everything from Verb Suite and all those other tools you get with Kali that are just absolutely incredible in such a small package that can fly. And actually, what I noticed on my bench tests was that even though we had the dongle and the Wi-Fi card both connected via USB, I was running on my bench power supply set to 18 and a half volts, I think it was. And the current didn't go above 0.26 amps, and I'm actually quite impressed with that. So I'm gonna dig into this a bit more. I'm going to actually do this for real. But I need somebody's help. So obviously I can't break the rules. Doing so is unethical, and it is illegal. What we'll do is get some people to help out. I can fly the drone, set up a target, and then get someone else to hack in, to connect in, and then hack into the target. So actually do this for real flying at some point. But like I said, I can't do this on my own, and we need some better weather, because in the UK this year we've either had really wet weather or extremely hot, where you just don't want to do anything. So lovely.
So in conclusion, I think you can agree there that that was a very, very feasible conclusion from that test. This is a very possible thing to do. People have talked about it and everything, and some people have done some smaller hacks, but this is doable. This is definitely doable. There's some latency, but it's not that it's barely enough to be noticeable. There is a little bit, but and it's not enough to be an issue, really. Because the commands you're throwing out there aren't going to be time dependent and all that kind of stuff. It's not like you're trying to hit a target on the screen. And then in the battery considerations, I mentioned them earlier. It's drawing between 0.8 and 1 amp. On that battery, it's going to give us a good 12 hours, which is much longer than the possible flight time. So I don't need to go for a bigger battery. This is enough, you know. This is the heavy part of the payload. I think the whole thing came in at just under a kilo when I weighed it, which means I still have just over 3 kilos for the drone batteries, which means I could probably get a good 3 hours of flight time out of it as well. And that's more than enough time to, you know, to do the Wi-Fi hacking like we said. And of course, if you can get in, you can get out. You know, so you can get part way into the network and then save your work, come back, recharge, get new batteries, go back out again, you know. So or if I get the bigger drone, it's got at least 4 hours autonomy. I think I can get up to 6 or 7, and then yeah, that's almost a full day's work worth of red teaming. So it's an interesting idea, interesting concept. So what I want to do next is actually do it for real. So, you know, I did say this earlier, I was going to do it. You know, challenges got in the way, the regulations got in the way, but I'm going to do it for real. And a friend of mine, I know he's watching, he's jokingly committed to helping me out. I'm going to call him on it. So, you know, you're watching, you're in, and we're going to do this. So we're going to actually, I'm going to find a way of printing a bracket for all of the gear so it's safely housed inside the drone, and then we're going to get the drone up in the air, and we're going to set up that network in a field somewhere. I've got some friends in Wales with a nice big, they run a farm, so they've got some nice big fields that I'm sure I can use. So watch this space. It's going to be later on in this year. I think my next videos are going to be about the Mavlink protocol. I want to do some work on that. You know, it'd be great to get some kind of module set up on GitHub that we can actually, you know, start cracking Mavlink. So we'll see which one comes first. It might be this one, but it might be the Mavlink too. But definitely stay tuned. We've got some more stuff coming. And that's it for today. You know, we've got the Discord channel on the DEF CON servers. If you're not already in the AV Village channels, get yourself in there and get in the AV Lounge bar text. I'll be available for Q&A, or if you just want to just have a chat about stuff, come in and mingle. And if you're on site in Vegas, I am here too. Come stop by the Village. You got some ideas, you got some knowledge you can impart. I'm more than welcome. Like I said, I don't know anything. I'm learning about this as I go. But yeah, if you have any experience in this yourselves, let's get together and brainstorm. Take care.